Welcome back to what's your story? Today's story is the second of a few Fury stories. This takes place on the same road as the Toboggan Fury setting, just a few miles north of that adventurous journey. This will be a short episode because the entire adventure happened in about 5 seconds or less. For those who missed the Toboggan Fury ride, let me give a recap of what the Fury is. My first car was a 1963 Plymouth Fury. It was the more luxury four-door model, but it was a wonderful ride. I purchased the car off a family friend who ran a local junkyard and sold used cars. And I spent a couple of summers helping our friend Gil, the junkyard owner. Gil and his wife were my grandfather and grandmother's best man and maid of honor. That was my mom's mom and dad. Gil was a veteran of World War II, and he was a cook in the U.S. Army. One funny story he told me was the time General Eisenhower was visiting his division while training in the mountains of Arizona. Gil's commanding officer asked him if he could prepare a special meal for the general. Gil had an immediate idea. So he and a couple of the fellow cooks borrowed one of the company jeeps and headed for the mountains. Now, the Army Jeep was a four-wheel all-terrain vehicle that could be adapted to most any difficult assignment. And one even had a snorkel adapter that allowed the engine to be submersed for deep river crossings. I owned a 1955 M38A1 snorkel Jeep made by Willys Jeep soon after I was discharged from the Navy in 1979. Of course, it was used and I bought it from a friend. I have a couple stories to tell with my Jeep as well. Well, Jeep originally stood for GP, General Purpose Vehicle, that was designed for reconnaissance at first during World War II, but soon it was adapted for hauling large cannons, troop trailers, equipment trailers, and transporting the officers in charge. The Willys MB and the Ford GPW were the first true Jeeps around 1941 and 1942. Back to Gil and that one special meal for General Eisenhower. Well, after a few hours of mountain touring, Gil, who was an experienced hunter, soon had a couple white-tailed deer. Gil said the meal was an instant hit and soon became a regular treat while the training continued in Arizona. Well, back to today's story. So there I was, enjoying the morning ride, and let me take you to the setting of this very planned adventure. This is another Fury story, and I was coming to work one day, coming down this Gilmantown Road, and right about here, a big pine tree fell right across. Very unplanned adventure. As I mentioned, this tree began to fall just as I came over the hill. I don't even remember trying to put the brakes on. I do remember swerving to the left to enter the top of the tree where the trunk might be the smallest in diameter. Well, old Fury hit the initial branches, and I dare say I must have been traveling about 35 or 40 miles an hour. The snapping and cracking and the pine branches were everywhere, and the jolting and thumping of old Fury going through and over the trunk was quite a sound to behold. Well, folks, this happened within 2-3 seconds, and to my surprise, old Lumberjack Fury just cut its way over and through the top of the tree. So, what's your story?